Hey guys, what is up? This is DaaroDS. Hey guys, what is up? This is DaaroDS. And today we are playing the visual novel called Narcissu, which came out back in 2005, 2007. And this is the very first game, and I have not played any of this. So, I'm going to go over here and we're going to begin. I heard this is actually on Steam. It was free. And, I bought it. I got it a long time ago. I just haven't gotten around to play it. And I thought I'd just start streaming it. So, anyway, let's get started with Narcissu. There we go. Okay. So we have first two. We have the second side and we have the first version. I'm going to click the first one. And we're going to go, I don't know. Which one we're going to go to? I'm going to go unvoiced. Let's try that. Well, I made it to the first chapter. Let's start from the prologue. Let's go. 2001, 2003, on suicide. 1996. Certainly, since I was a child, I wasn't on the healthy side. Just gonna... But even so, I went on to grade school normally. During summer vacation, I played until I was tanned very dark. June, soon after entering middle school. The day after we ordered swimsuits for the swimming class that would start next month. That time was the first time I experienced being admitted into the hospital. Just a little before the first semester midterms, a day where the rain as that started falling felt awfully cold. In the midst of that pure white sky of the rainy season. In the beginning, everyone in the class came to visit me each day. And when I was discharged from the hospital during the weekends, they would come to my house to play. But that was just the beginning. Fall came, winter left, hospitalized, discharged, outpatient care, and then starting again with hospitalization. Classmates who were once called friends at some point became acquaintances, and then turned to strangers. With each turning of the seasons, it seemed that I was disappearing from their memories. It looks like makes them uncomfortable. For those who live normally, my very existence. That's why I seem to have been erased. Numerous seasons, white, overcast skies, passed without even the need to exchange words with anyone. My English textbook, from my first year midterms onwards, remained brand new. It was there. That my time seemed to have stopped. Stage Never, Volume 24. 8 years later, 2004, early summer, protagonist. Protagonist. Alright. Summer, flowing sweat. In the driver's license examination area, a large electronic bulletin board was installed. All at once, the lights came on. Like everyone else is there, I searched for my own number. 237. 237. Scanning among the most lit light panels, I found my own examination number. The tracks beneath the train thudded rhythmically. Because it was just past midday, the train car was quite empty. And in that empty car, I was on my way home from the examination center. In my left hand was the traffic regulations manual I had just received. In my shirt pocket was the brand new license. With this, I'm also normally licensed, eh? I murmured somewhat seriously, but I didn't feel any particular strong emotion. It's not like I wanted to drive cars, nor did I really have another purpose in mind. It was just people around me were going to the training center and had recommended that I at least get a driver's license. That night, when I reported to my parents that I had gotten my license, "Is that so?" was the short reply. As an experiment, I tried saying that I wanted to borrow the car, and just as shortly came a "you can't." It wasn't like I wanted to drive the car, but the responses were exactly as I had imagined. They were those sorts of parents. Upon the next day, upon waking up, my chest hurt, and so I was taken to the hospital. Normally, I had little to do with things involving sickness. That was why I was waiting in the initial waiting room felt extremely boring. Finally, just when I thought the examination was over, this time I was to take x-rays and blood tests, was made to go. On top of that, for a long time, I was made to wait in boredom. Without noticing, I had finished reading the 3 books of Chap manga that was in the waiting room, and was reaching for a 4th. And just like that, I was made to do the paperwork for being admitted into the hospital. The brand new driver's license still lays in my shirt pocket. It looked like the time for its debut was far off. Protagonist, 2004, autumn. Around when those very noisy cicadas had stopped crying. As usual, I was in the hospital. Of course, it wasn't like I was always admitted into the hospital. It would be in and out. Last month, I had my first experience with surgery. After being discharged, I commuted 5 minutes to the outpatient care by scooter. And even from then on, admitted, discharged, outpatient care, gradually moving to being admitted again. I didn't know anything about PET or IRES or IRISA, but I noticed through the comings and goings that a number of months had passed. In exchange for my decreasing appetite, the types and amounts of drugs increased. Even I could see with my own eyes that the strength was declining. My legs felt a bit thin, but that's not your imagination. The needle on the scale will tell me. And yet, I was looking at myself somehow objectively. As if watching a stranger, like looking at a single scene on the television. The sudden things that happened to my body, my head couldn't keep up with them. The feeling that was happening was real, didn't arise. And so, even though it was supposed to be my own body, I could only watch myself from afar with cold eyes. Winter, around when Christmas trees were disappearing from streets. Perhaps it was the end of the year, but I was allowed to return home. In the end, it seemed to be only temporary, but even then, I was a bit happy. In a mix of rain and sleet, I returned home for the first time in a while. For some reason, everyone in the family was gathered. Even though my parents normally didn't speak much, while being a bit stiff, they smiled at me. The little sister who I always argued with made my favorite cream stew and fried shrimp. We sat next to each other in the kotatsu, and they peeled mandarins for me. They were excessively kind. That was the impression it left. During this time, I had just had a bit of realization. Still left in the pocket, that brand new license. That license, without giving rise to any practical value, might expire. While having stiff, unnatural smiles directed at me. Calmly, vaguely, rather simply, I thought of that, as if thinking of someone else. January 2005. The new year passed and I returned again to the hospital. For some reason on that day, I didn't go to the 4th floor, but instead to a conference room was made to go. There, with my father and a doctor, I heard many things. I was made to listen. It was that thing called notification, probably. They had an extremely indirect way of speaking, but in the end, it seemed like I was going to die. I see. That was why I was only able to reply with that. I couldn't find other words. From when I entered until I left the room, that was all I said. Accepting my answer, the doctor moved the ballpoint pen in his hand. Most likely, it was the paperwork for the hospice. To the very end, he was very businesslike. My father was very much the same. It was such a simple thing. That was my honest impression. And then between that day and the next, I changed from the 4th floor to the 7th, from a 6-patient room to a single. And so, the 7th floor itself was a bit different from the other floors. For one thing, the flowers were sparkling. The ceilings were much higher, much broader. Inside the rooms was extremely clean. It was extremely clean. The large windows seemed designed to let in lots of sunlight. However, the windows only opened a tiny bit. When I tried measuring, it was slightly smaller than allowing your head to pass through. The other thing was the color of the ID bracelets changed. Since the day I was admitted, a vinyl bracelet was always wrapped around my wrist. Upon it was the name and my blood type. That color had changed from blue to white. High ceilings with all white vinyl bracelets, windows that could only open 15 centimeters. The day I was transferred to the 7th floor, it was when the boring New Year's programs were still being broadcasted. The time I met her for the first time was also at the very beginning of the year. Winter 2005, the 7th floor. Across the hall facing the nurse's station was like a lounge-like place. Left in that unpopulated place were a number of sofas, folding chairs, and a large television. On that 28-inch CRT, a meaningless New Year's program running. Watching that boring television with an equally bored expression was some girl. She had a small build and wore pink pajamas. Her wrist had, just like I did, a white bracelet. Hair that was to her lips, or hips, left an impression. Hey, you. Is that interesting? There wasn't with any particular deep meaning. Since there was no one around, I tried speaking to her profile. Not particularly. That was all that she replied with. She didn't even turn towards me, even though I had spoken to her. Perhaps she had absolutely no interest in me. She continued to gaze at the television with a bored look. If it's boring, why, you don't have to watch it. As I thought that, I also sat down in the folding chair. And sitting next to her, I gazed at the television. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Quietly, we continued to gaze at the television. On the screen were the usual New Year's programs, pathetic impersonations, and parlor tricks. Occasionally ringing out the host's stupidly high-pitched laugh, in the pure white sunlit room, it dryly reverberated. Say, you. Suddenly the girl spoke to me while still gazing at the television. You're on which time? Which time? What does that mean? Coming here. The 7th floor. Sorry, I don't understand the meaning of the question. I see. It's your first. It seemed to my inability to understand what she was saying, she had up and gotten satisfied with that judgment. Well, there's no one else around, so it's my duty. Duty? There's that kind of rule. While nodding, she added that there was a rule for someone to teach people who first come here to the 7th floor. Right now, I knew nothing about anything. As if ignoring me, the girl slowly began speaking. Well, listen closely, alright? The girl's words came by ones and twos. They were slightly different compared to the doctor's speech that I had heard until coming here. In that businesslike speech from the doctor, it was said that this was a place to await the advancement of medicine. It was also called a place for healing the heart. Most likely, broadly speaking, that was probably correct. However, from what the girl said, that was a facade. The 7th floor was within the hospital, but was the only place that didn't give treatments. Simply a place to wait for the end of life. That's what the girl said, and that's what I also felt. I had the same perception. I'm on my 2nd time, you see. 2nd time? What's that? Coming to this place. And the girl taught me. This place is called the 7th floor, to be here from the moment of admission all the way until dying. The first of all apparently didn't happen. Even if being cured was impossible, if your health becomes better, then they would allow you to come back to go home once. But after a while, and it turns bad, once again you come back. Among those comings and goings, eventually you die. The place where life ran out is only differed between home and the 7th floor. Unfailingly, one would die in either of those. It seemed that no one had ever escaped that. It was with that meaning that the girl had meant by saying this was her 2nd time. Well, I'll only say this once. So, from here on, listen well. Still looking at the dull screen, the girl continued speaking even more. The subject being not about what time the lights would be out and the normal sorts of topics exchanged between admitted patients. She taught me about totally totally different things. On the third time, you're going to be getting a temporary discharge. Prepare yourself. There's never a fourth. You won't be going home anymore. If there's a time that you want to run away, go not to Station A, but towards Station B. Don't eat anything. That is the shortest path. It will end with the least burden of your family. It was only full of these sorts of topics that one gives one pause. Most likely it was the only the people who came here. Only those who participated in moving towards death. These were the things that have continued to pass down. It was your duty, you mentioned this? Yes, that's right. Someday, you will tell it to newcomers too, okay? Within those final words, the girl slowly stood up, gently, her long hair swayed, and brushed the tip of my nose. Well, it's time for taking temperature, so... And then, just like that, with her back facing me, she began walking towards the hall. I was left all alone in that place, with the laughing voice from the screen and the white flowers decorated around the window. In the end, the girl never once looked in my direction. January 10th, 2005. From then, when a few days had passed, finally, the New Year's programs ended, and soon the middle and high school third terms would be starting. Today in the lounge, once more, the figures of the girl and I were staring at the television. It's boring, isn't it? Indeed. The word came back in reply, but both of us were conversing while continuing to gaze at the screen. Hey, is this place always like this? I don't understand the meaning of your question. I meant that there's no one around. Nurses, doctors, added to that, helpers, and if you take them out, then aside from our attendants, I had never seen anyone else. I guess it's because it's the New Year's? You want to know the reason for that? No, it's not like that. Not like I meant that. Then I won't say. An exchange that wasn't even a conversation. We indifferently passed back and forth. A slight breeze from the window that couldn't open for more than 15 centimeters. Occasionally, it would sway the girl's hair, and in the same way, it would sway the white flowers decorating around the windows. The two of us, while watching the boring television, were only spending days passing time. There came a sound of slippers. Oh, the two of you are here in a place like this? Saying that while rushing up there was an elderly nurse. Just glancing at the nurse's station once in a while, this person seemed to be the chief of the 7th floor. So, Setsumi-san, you don't have a fever? It's alright, I don't have one. Setsumi. Apparently this was the girl's name. You can't be roaming outside anymore, okay? Alright, everyone gets worried. That doesn't really matter. My, what kind of statement is that? Really? Girls these days, there's just no helping them. And for a while more, the nurse continued scolding. To that, she, the girl called Setsumi, let it go with an indifferent expression. As if ignoring the slightly noisy nurse, she continued watching the boring screen. Well, later, I'll be coming to take a blood sample, alright? With those final words once again, the nurse returned back to the nurse's station. Hey, you. I mean, I can call you Setsumi, right? Wrapped up around the girl's wrist was the white vinyl bracelet. While looking up at the blood type and the name there, I asked. Is something wrong, Satsui? Why is there no honorific? What? Even though you're the younger one. Hey, why is that I'm the younger one? No real reason. I just thought so. It wasn't that I was upset at the word younger. It was just that no matter how you looked at it, one would believe I was 5-6 years older. That was why I took out the license in my chest pocket and showed it to her. How about it? Even though I look this, I'm 20, you know? Like I thought. Younger. With just a glance at the license, the girl only gave that reply. Hey, I don't really get it. It doesn't matter, does it? It's only just a bit older. As always, the girl spoke softly with no expression. Those eyes, while looking at the boring television, I felt that they were just looking at someplace far away. When the morning temperature taking ended, I got into the elevator trying not to be seen by the nurses. Coming to the first floor, deliberately passing through entrance for outpatients, and I just kept walking out of the hospital. The destination was the place that I was taught before, not the nearby Station A, but the far Station B. It wasn't like I was planning on running away. The 7th floor, or home, there was one who died outside of those two. There was no one who died outside of those two. Before that was what I heard. And it also seemed that the girl called Sesame had gone many times to Station B. That was why, for no real reason, I felt simply like wanting to go to see that place once. It's not like there are any guards around. Even so, us residents of the 7th floor were different from other admitted patients. While also thinking about the just maybe, I continued walking down on the street to the early morning station area. Commuters and the people going to school, I slowly moved on a measured pace. After walking a while, taking about 25 minutes, I finally arrived before the station in terms of a bus stop. It was about four's distance. In a way, there's quite a bit of people around. That was the first impression upon seeing Station B. Because my clothes were pajamas, I stood out somewhat. However, if just like that, I bought a train ticket without a single problem, I felt I could go anywhere. Why was that not Station A, but Station B that was recommended? I didn't know. However, if one was planning on to run away, I thought it would be a simple thing. Certainly, the girl who was also supposed to have come many times, but why was it that she still remained in the 7th floor now, I wonder. Early morning before the station. While watching people hurrying by, suddenly that thought occurred to me. That night after the lights had been turned off, holding onto a book of manga, unable to sleep, I wandered around the ward alone. Normally, wandering around after lights out would get one scolded badly, but us residents at the 7th floor were given a relative amount of freedom. And with the lights off, the usual lounge was pitch dark. There, I saw her figure. Hey, today you're looking outside? In the dark room there was a response, but that face remained looking beyond the window. Immediately, I started talking about what happened during the day. That reminds me, this morning, I went all the way to the station. Just like you told me, I went to see Station B. I see. But the girl's response was no different than the usual. Because she was supposed to have gone before, I had thought that there might might have been some kind of reaction, but thinking about that and how the girl still remained there, did it mean that she really had no intention of running away? I will soon be able to go home. Eh? Suddenly the girl opened her mouth. Words as if she had never seen clear through my heart just now. But next is the third time after all. So we might not be able to meet anymore. Ah, yeah, that's right. Most likely, when she said there would be that she would be able to go home, she was talking about a temporary discharge. In this place called the 7th floor, being admitted to more than 3 times, it apparently never happened. Especially unlike the elderly, when concerning the rate of progression of disease, it was even more so for the youngest patients like us. With that kind of meaning came the words, "We won't meet again." Say, which would you choose? Choose what? Which one you plan on dying at? Suddenly, hearing the word death, my words caught for just a moment. Well, I haven't thought about it yet. I see. Well, you're still on your first time. The girl spoke in a lonely murmur. Of course, I knew even I couldn't be here forever. Like everyone else, going in and out of the hospital, slowly weakening until someday. In the end, either the 7th floor or surrounding by thin smiles. It would probably come to a choice between those two, probably. I don't want home. But I don't want here either. Then what will you do? Nothing in particular. I won't do anything. While I'm still able to walk on my own, I'll just go somewhere. Somewhere, you? Even though it was obvious that if one wanted to run away, one could. This girl still remained on the 7th floor. When I thought about that, do you have some other place to go to? You want to pull me back? Huh? Or perhaps you want to come with me? No, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean it like that. Then don't ask. While gazing at the window, the girl spoke indifferently. As always, it had been a conversation where she did not even look in my direction. However, just that time, I saw that her usual expressionless profile seemed sad. Thought that the third temporary discharge would be the last. The first time I've come to this... The first time I've come to the 7th floor. And then a girl who would soon face her second time. For me, I could still really feel the things that were happening in reality, but someday I would also come to make such a... Would I come to make such a face? For before dawn, rain fell. Occasionally also changing to either sleet or snow, it lightly continued coming down. Within that, I was in the usual place, watching television. As always, this 7th floor was devoid of people. Is it interesting? Nope. Boring. The girl came from the other side. Exchanging only those words, she quietly sat in the folding chair next to me. And then today also, the two of us began gazing at the television. Surely the girl was also the same. There was nothing else to do, nothing else she could do. Surprisingly, she responded to something on the television. Something the matter? Not particularly. The words were the same, not particularly, but it was a response that was different from the usual for the girl. Becoming interested, I turned my eyes to the screen. What was on the screen was some kind of nature scene. On a beautiful hill, trees and flowers merged into a landscape. And focused on the screen was many great white flowers. They were flowers I remembered seeing before. They resembled white flowers even now decorating the room by the windows. Are those the same flower? Look, aren't they exactly like these? While speaking, I pointed at the first screen and then pointed towards the window. They're the same kind, but strictly speaking, they're different. Giving just a glance at the flowers by the window, the girl once again returned to gazing at the television while answering. To say the truth, even if she denied that they were the same, to me, I didn't know the difference between the two. And anyways, for me, whether the flowers were the same or different, it really didn't matter. Instead of that, the girl normally would never participate in conversation. That girl surprisingly continued with her words. That was why I also tried to maintain the conversation. Are you maybe acknowledgeable about this sort of thing? Not particularly. Really? But I can't tell the difference. The white flowers blow me beyond the screen. The white flowers in the vases beyond the girl's profile. While vaguely looking at both of them, I continued to further with my words. So are these are orchids or lilies? Look, they've got a whitish color, right? Even though I had no interest, I managed to continue speaking. However, the girl soon became like usual and fell silent. With her usual expressions, she only gazed at the boring screen. And when she had given up on that possibility, that she would take up the conversation and once again began to move my eyes back to the television. Narcissus. Huh? They're Narcissus. Narcissus. While answering, for the first time, she faced me. Swaying her long, waist-length hair while pointing at the flowers on the television, she looked at me. Just like the flowers displayed on the screen, there was a white vinyl bracelet wrapped around that wrist with white skin. It's the first time that I saw that face. I thought I saw the briefest of smiles. Okay, so this is that was the end of chapter 1. We're about 40 minutes into the live stream. Not much change going on right now. I'm going to take a quick pause. I'm just going to keep it right there and just going to quickly see something here really fast. Yes, this one is pretty good. I mean, I've heard so much about how good it was on Steam, and I mean, I had to play it. I mean, there's no way I'm not playing this game. Let's check Twitter. On the right. Oh, I'm not. Man, just sitting here for the 40 minutes, it's just, man, I'm so just tired. But I think I'm going to do the second chapter. And then, oh man, crack in my neck. And then I will call it a stream until the next time. So let us begin with chapter 2, the Silver Coop. A few days passed, and the winter became even more serious. Out in the world, it was in the middle of what it was called examination season. As always, the two of us were watching the television today. It's boring, isn't it? Indeed. An exchange that couldn't even be called a conversation. There were days where the two of us only meaninglessly passed the time. Speaking of which, for you, when was it? Today. I see. It's today, eh? Here, the today that we spoke about was when she had told me before her temporary discharge. We might not meet anymore. Wow, that's alright. Even if she were to once again return to the 7th floor, just once more would probably be the limit. And that time, surely I would also be coming and going between home and this place. For the two of us, the timing needed for us to meet again was unthinkable. Did you decide that which you want to die at thing? No, not yet. I see. She nodded in a slightly lonely way. That expression was probably because that she was someone going on their second temporary discharge. While I have yet to realize things had not been given my first temporary discharge from the doctors. That reminds me. In the end, did she decide on her own answer for herself? The patter of slippers came from the hall. Setsumi, the arrangements are done. Coming here and speaking with some older lady. Most likely it was the girl's mother. To me, since I was sitting next to her, her mother bowed her head slightly. Well, it's about time we'll be going. Are you ready? Well then, excuse us. Once again, giving me a small bow, the lady made to leave this place. Okay. And then she stretched out her hand to the girl that was daughter. Okay, next time I'm going to do this, I'm definitely going to... There he goes. Now, what's up, Jason? Alright, seriously, next time I stream this, I'm definitely going to change the translation, because this is the most ridiculous, this is the craziest translation I've ever played of this game. And there are 3 of them. Well, there's 2, but there's one in Japanese. Alright. But the girl didn't make to leave this place. Even when her mother tugged on her hand, for some reason, she didn't want to stand from the folding chair. What's wrong, Setsumi? It hurts a bit. It hurts. Where? Your chest? Stomach? Chest. Wait here, I'll go call the doctor now. In a rush, the slapping sound of the guest's slippers rang out, and the lady ran towards the nurse's station. Left in that place that was the girl, still hunched over in the folding chair, and me. Her condition, or its progression, I knew absolutely nothing about. Anyway, Jason, I saw your Akame ga kill meant. That was pretty funny. Are you gonna continue doing it? The things that I knew were, her name was Setsumi, blood type O, all the things that were on that white bracelet. So visual right now. Oh my gosh. However, we were the residents of the 7th floor, and at least she was worse than me. Say, until the doctor comes, want to lie down there? As I spoke, I pointed to the couch. It was something that was placed in the corner of the room from before. Look, I'll support your back. It's nothing. I'm already fine. With just that reply, she quickly stood up on her own. Hey, you! Don't strain yourself. Faster than I could finish, quickly she walked out into the hall. Nice. Can't wait for that. That's gonna be sweet. Sweet! Night, after the lights were put out. As always, holding a book of manga, unable to sleep, I wandered around the hospital. And then, with the lights off, was the pitch-dark lounge. There, I found her figure. Yo, you here again? What's wrong? Feeling bad again? Unlimited Fafnir? Oh my god, that's gonna be rich. Jason, that's gonna be rich. I can't wait for that. Oh my god, I can't wait. That one's gonna be so ridiculous. Not particularly. While looking out the window, that was all the girl replied. In the end, it seemed that the girl's temporary discharge had been postponed. With that, I didn't know when the next opportunity would be, but most likely, the postponement was not in a few days, but weeks. Say, I'm just wondering. But today, you were faking sickness? You were faking it? Well, the term faking sickness itself might have been a bit strange, since after all, we couldn't really be said to be in a normal condition. And the important thing is, you didn't want to go on a temporary leave. I don't understand your meaning. Well, you won't have any more after, right? To that question, she remained silent and gave no reply. From before, she had repeatedly asked me which I had planned to die in. And I had not yet decided. While the girl had said she didn't like home or the 7th floor. You really don't have another place to go, do you? If so, what about it? I found you, Faker. Oh my gosh. I found you, Faker. No, nothing. Those random voices, man, you... In the usual lounge, now pitch dark. Faker! As always, without even looking my way, the girl sat down, or sat out looking Girl sat looking out the window. Even though it was still 11 o'clock in this place called a hospital. Yes, we know it's a hospital. You don't need to tell us that. It is a place and a hospital. What is it? What is this? I don't even know what it is. Most of the lights were already out. This place was where the ordinary and extraordinary days met. Moreover, there were residents of the 7th floor. We were the residents of the 7th floor, man. Already, we could choose nothing outside the 7th floor and home. From that dark 7th floor window, the girl continued looking out on the outside world, the ordinary world. Still, the buildings and the houses shone brightly with light, and the roads home were filled with the figures of people hurrying home. I myself had only somewhat realized my situation, but already I was a resident of the 7th floor, a person of the extraordinary world. Probably I was already unable to return to the other world. The me whose time had stopped. Numerous seasons, white overcast skies passed without even the need to exchange words with anyone. In the beginning, from the window I watched lively children go to school, people walking quickly. When I got tired, I don't know if this is right. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely choosing the second. Translation next time. I think that was the one I used the first time, but when I was tired of that, I always watched the television. There was nothing else to do, nothing else I could do. Even outside the window it was snowing, the screen had the sun. Without cold, heat, nor pain, a dream would spread before my eyes. Well, yeah, I mean, it is a really good translation, but it's just some, like, very few, like, it could just sound difficult for in my stead. But it is a really good translation. But it's not hard. It isn't, like, polite to not, like, choose to try out the second one to see how it goes. I'm not trying to be mean. I think both of them are good. I just want to try them both out. Simply accumulating more and more meaningless trivia. At some point, the things shown on the television lost their reality. Next in the books, in games, and then in family. Finally, even my own body. As if watching some stranger, I lost the ability to understand it as real. That was why, when I came to the 7th floor, I wasn't surprised. If I closed my eyes, always, the world would disappear. That's why I thought I was fine with it. I made myself think I was fine. And soon, I would be discharged a second time. Oh, sweet. Recording... game recording? Or just, like, VA recording? The next time I come here, I might not be able to walk on my own. Even though I knew that, I felt my unresisting self to be wretched. I felt myself, who I didn't even have a destination, to be ridiculous. Oh, sweet. Stopping time, stopping my heart, making a large scar on my chest. And even so, even though I had lived 22 years, I thought I was pathetic. Oh, maybe this is her. I was thinking, okay. January 19th, 2005. The 7th floor. After a few days more, the cloudy days ended yesterday, and the high winter sky spread wide open. Surprisingly, my father came to visit. In the beginning, he had a pained look on his face. However, he said something about my insurance. At this time, his eyes weren't sad. Well, I have to talk a bit with the doctor. Saying that, my father went down the hall. He seemed to be heading in the place from before, the gloomy conference room. Once again, I was alone in the hospital room. With nothing to do, I stretched out my hands to the weekly magazines I bought for me from the store. They were there along with the fruits and the juice that he always brought when visiting. Next to the basket with fruit inside, just in front of the melons that I hated. What came into view were car keys. Shining silver keys. It was the coupe father was so proud of, with the interior he apparently had modified. Before I had asked on a whim to borrow it, and had been quickly turned down, the keys to the car. And in my pajamas chest pocket, that driver's license. That day, even though it had lost its debut, I had continued to carry the license. It was proof of my once ordinary days. Silently, I grasped the keys. I just went and did it. Even I didn't know the exact reason why. Simply, I did just that. It was like watching a single scene of television somewhere. Then, taking a few days' worth of medicine that had been given, I just placed them in a bag from a convenience store, and then headed down the hall. Slipping by the nurse's station, I quickly continued to walk towards the elevator. In my right hand, the plastic bag. In my left, the car keys. In my chest pocket, the license that was supposed to have lost its debut hid. In front of the lounge, the next thing that came into sight was the figure of the girl, as always, watching the television. Sitting in the cheap folding chair today, she was also boredly looking at the screen. Hey, you, is that interesting? Does it look like it? Nope, not at all. The usual exchange. Her eyes were, as usual, seemingly looking far away. Well, then, shall we go together? Huh? While showing her the car keys in my hand, I continued speaking. I also don't like home. I also don't like the 7th floor. So, shall we go together? With that word, the girl stood up from the folding chair. Lightly her long hair swayed and brushed the tip of my nose. And so the girl also packed a few days' worth of medicine into a plastic bag. Then the two of us placed the 7th floor behind us. I turned off the boring television. The shrilly laughing voice of the host was silenced. The two of us in pajamas got on the elevator and descended from the highest floor to the first. When we came to the first floor, instead of the entrance of the emergencies, normal attendance and discharges, we deliberately left from the outpatient care and headed to the parking lot. The moment we left the building, the cold winter blast struck us in the face. In the parking lot with a few obstructions, the wind felt even stronger. Together, while we carefully peered around the searching, we walked around the parking lot. Then, after searching a while, we finally found Dad's car. A silver coupe. A car Dad was proud of. Was so proud of that he even changed the interior. Quickly, I inserted the key and opened the door. All the doors popped open. Look, you can get in. Alright. I slammed the door shut. I sank myself deep into the driver's seat. For a girl in the passenger seat, because of her height, even if she was sat normally, it was difficult for her to see she was small, okay? She couldn't see out of the driver's seat. It's one of those, like, you see those grannies that are basically too short and they can barely see over the steering wheel. That's pretty much how it is. That's pretty much how they're explaining things. Next, I put the key in my hand into the ignition, and as I turned it and stepped on the accelerator, it was all exactly what the training center had taught. In moments, the sound of the engine reverberated around the interior. After that, the release of the parking brake, and just let go of the clutch. The clutch, baby. With this, we could go anywhere. Should we be able to go anywhere? Should be able to go anywhere. Well, here we go. The girl gave a small nod, and instead of responding, I shifted into second gear, and quietly the car set off. As the chassis rattled from the unfamiliar clutch, it slowly went on. It's shaky, isn't it? It's the first time in the car. In this car, after all. And while we're on the subject, it's the first time driving since I'm getting my I'm sorry. That's like the worst thing going to God. This is the first time I've been in a car. This is the first time I'm actually driving a car since I got my license. This was about maybe a few months ago? Or no, during the summer. Don't kill me, please. That's definitely. Don't kill me. Eventually, it appeared before us. The hospital parking lot exit. Just beyond that was a large road. I pulled the car out into the lightless intersection. Nuke. From behind came the sound of car horns blaring at us as we suddenly pulled into the lane. The unfamiliar clutch ground when the gears shifted, and the silver coupe ran, fits, and starts. Perhaps the cars behind were especially angry. They didn't seem like they'd stop honking for a while. Even so, without paying any particular mind, I drove. The feeling of reality was somehow thin. Hey, you. What? Are you afraid? Being afraid would be better. Would be better? No, not really. Still morning, the sun was high. Looking beyond the windshield, the January winter sky was painted so blue it somehow felt sorrowful. It wasn't like we had a destination. That day under the winter sky, the car swayed with the unfamiliar clutch. That day in our pajamas, the two of us aimed for the national road. That winter day. Irabaki, Mito Highway. Around when that so very high sun was turning orange. We continued to drive. Simply at random, the car continued running. And then, when the area turned into an unfamiliar place, I'm stopping for a bit. Finally, I brought the car to a stop. Outside the city area, by the roadside somewhere, a lonely place that didn't seem to have much traffic. Stopping a car in place I didn't even know the name of. For now, I started inspecting the interior. If there were things that would even be the slightest bit useful, we had rushed out with any preparation, but I could see that we'd be in trouble very soon. While thinking about that, first, I searched the dashboard in front of me. There really isn't much, is there? Just a few hundred yen worth of appear to be change from the expressways. The rest are just a few books of manga and a disposable camera. It wasn't like we had a destination, but it seemed that the navigation system installed in the car was broken. And also, the amount of money that we had was about 8,000 yen. While leaving, I had hurriedly stuffed that much in my pocket. With that, and adding in the change in front of me, we could barely make 9,000 yen. Of course, it wasn't like I'd been expecting to find anything in the car from the start. But, with this budget, we'd probably be in trouble very soon. I could definitely believe that we wouldn't find decent lodging. Even saying that, I doubt the girl had any money. Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. Oh well, it didn't matter. I should have known this from the start. To begin with, it wasn't like we had thought up arrangements or plans before acting. Instead of that, right now I wanted to move. I didn't want to sit still. Under the snow-darkened sky, once again the silver coupe ran. By the way, are you hungry? As I drove, I spoke to the one sitting next to me. Thinking about it, we hadn't eaten since this morning. For now, let's go to a convenience store. No. Hey, don't be so picky. Even so, compared to the 7th floor's food, it absolutely has to be better. At my words, the girl returned silence. Those downcast eyes, their lines of sight were on the pink pajamas that she wore. Ah, now you say, that's right. As I spoke, I looked down at my own clothes. Certainly in these pajamas, wherever we went, we'd stand out too much. It wasn't like there was no problem inside the car either. For now, we had nothing to do. We had to do something about these clothes. Making that decision, I turned the wheel for the main road and headed into town. After running a while, the place that we had come to was some street I didn't know the name of. Surely it must be near some station, since it was a street where about the number of people could be seen. In a place like this, you'd think there'd be one. While glancing around the area searching, I moved the car on, slightly raised my body in the seat while driving. Ah, found it. In a short while, I spotted a coin-operated laundromat. It appeared to be quite run down, and was in the first floor of a small apartment building. This place might be just perfect. A short distance away from the entrance, I parked the car. Alright, just wait a bit. Huh? I shut the door with a slam. Leaving the girl who was making a puzzled face, I headed for the coin-operated laundromat on foot. Just past the automatic doors, my nose picked up the scent of bleach and detergent. Inside, it was just a run-down exterior filled with old washing machines and dryers. There's no one around. I muttered those words in an empty shop. There, raising a low sound while spinning, was a single unit in use. Quickly approaching the machine, I started to check the timer. It looked like 200 yen had been inserted and it was set for 30 minutes. Also, it had been going for only 5 minutes. Most likely it was until it was about done the person passing the time somewhere. With that deduction, once again from the entrance, I looked around for someone that seemed to be that sort of person. Then, making sure that there was no one in sight, I placed my hands on the revolving dryer's door and suddenly opened it. The machine rumbled to a sudden stop. Open in the middle of the drying cycle, the machine was forced into a stop temporarily. Ignoring the blast of heat and damp air, I took out the mass of half-dry clothing from inside. Then, carrying it just like that in both hands, I looked around once more before I could put the shop behind me. I opened the car door and got in. Ah! Seeing both my hands filled with laundry, the girl raised a bit of a surprised voice. However, paying no heed to that, I threw them in the back. So we basically went into somebody else's laundry and took their half-dry clothes out of their laundry? Oh my gosh. Wow. If I was the person coming in, where the heck's my clothes? Where'd my clothes go? It's ridiculous. Who would do that? I'm gonna steal somebody's clothing. Jeez. Well, we're going. And you're just gonna leave? Really? I started the engine again. With one hand on the wheel, I eyed the pile of laundry I had thrown in the back. At a glance, there was all flashy-looking jeans and a sweatshirt and sweatshirts. All these sizes seemed to be on the large side. They were so wet by the inside of the car, with the heat on and the vent, they'd probably be dry soon. Later, change into something you like. For those words also came particular reply. She simply looked in the pile of laundry. Well, what else could we do? I know. Even for me, it wasn't like I did this because I liked it. Indeed, the money that we held wasn't like we were set on an errand with it. However, buying new clothes would have been a tight situation. When the face of the moon really came out, and we had driven for a while. I stopped the car at a park somewhere. It was most likely some kind of children's park, tucked into the middle of a residential neighborhood. In the middle of that, I began to search throughout the clothes stolen earlier. Most likely because of the heating in the car, the laundry was totally dry. Looks like it really is all guy stuff. Exactly as when I had glanced at them, it was all gaudy jeans and sweats. Most likely it was someone about my age, size-wise, something close. And then, while still sitting in the driver's seat, I grabbed a pair of suitable jeans and a sweatshirt and started to change. Hey, you changed to something suitable too. They're all too big. Then you're going to be always in pajamas? Alright. With a reluctant reply, the girl took a pair of jeans and opened the door. Hey, where are you going? To change. With just that answer, he began walking towards the restroom that could be seen in the park just ahead. The door opened again with a click. Hey there, that was quick. In the moments, the girl had returned. The pink pajamas she had been wearing up till now was in her hand, and she had changed into jeans and a white sweatshirt. Well, it's good that you managed to put something on. There was no reply. It was just something that I saw coming. The size was too much, and draped rather heavily on her. Since the jeans were too long, her legs were rolled up a number of times, while the top of the sweatshirt was the same way, folded over. The pajamas were better. Well, don't say that. It's a bit warmer this way. Alright. At my words, she gave me the slightest dissatisfied look. I guess something more feminine would have been better? Not particularly. The girl's usual response. Even though I had the thought that she was dissatisfied with the poor poofy sweatshirt, soon she had returned to being expressionless. Suddenly it started raining. As if I had forgotten how to stop, rain spilled on the cold January sky. Looking from the inside of the car, countless raindrops on the windshield. One by one, they would grow a bit too big to stick. A number would gather, overflow, and then turn into a rivulet. And then while flowing down, they would involve other rivulets and flow even more. The two of us just sat there gazing at the sort of rain from inside the car. In some parking lot somewhere, a lonely place in the mountains. Having finished shopping at a convenience store, we were spending the night. On the menu at each of us, 2 nirigiri, 500 milliliters of Pocari, and half an order of fries. It has been a while since having this stuff, hey? With one hand holding the convenience store nirigiri, the girl murmured, thinking about if normally it wasn't all that splendid, but compared to the food on the 7th floor, it was good enough. And then, with the both of us reached out towards the fries, suddenly the girl's hand stopped. Is something wrong? Not particularly. While answering, her line of sight turned towards the whitely fogged windshield. There by roadside, a number of white flowers could be seen. White flowers soaked by the rain. I didn't know whether they'd be planted by someone or whether they're naturally, but those flowers seemed familiar. Those were Narcissus. They're also called daffodils. Those were daffodils. I didn't know too much about plants and all, but daffodils. I had at least heard their name before. I also recalled that even though the girl would normally speak only rarely, she would uncharacteristically join in our conversation on this topic. That was why I went along and continued to speak. And I guess there are also different from those two. Strictly speaking, they're different. They're quite rare things then, aren't they? Not particularly. They're everywhere. Everywhere. Like where? For me, it wasn't like I put very much meaning in the statement. It was intended simply, from the flow of the conversation, as a natural question. And yet, she thought for a moment, and then slowly opened her mouth. West. Awajishima is famous. Hey, wait, Awajishima? You mean, just how far away do you think that is from here? For someone who had only just started driving, like me, I couldn't even make a guess. Most likely it was easily around 700 kilometers. Even using our expressways, it couldn't even begin to estimate the time it would take. First thing, considering our funds, it certainly didn't seem enough. Even if we stayed on the expressways and used smaller roads, the cost of gasoline itself would be ominous. Who said anything about wanting to go? Huh? I was asked, so I simply answered. Words just an answer. The girl once again gazed beyond the windshield at those flowers. The glass inside the car, the cold from the rain, was fogged white. She cast her gaze beyond even that. It wasn't as if you wanted to go there also. However, it also wasn't as if we had another place to go. All right. Alrighty, this is going to be it. We started from the very beginning on the prologue. We've gone 2 chapters into Narcissu, the unvoiced version. Thank you all for watching this stream. It has been about almost an hour and a half. Hooey. Alright, this is DaaroDS. Thank you for watching, and I will let you guys know next time. I am on streaming, and I'm on Twitch. So I'll catch you guys next time. Have a good night, and stay tuned for more Steins Gate on my channel, and many more. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.